At 100 years old, Mel Brooks has nothing left to prove and nothing left to lose. For decades, the comedy legend has been Hollywood's most beloved prankster. But in a recent startling revelation, the man who made the world laugh has finally spoken out, naming 5 actors he genuinely could not stand working with. The list includes a close friend and a legendary performer whose real-life cruelty rivaled his on-screen charm. For over 70 years, Mel Brooks has stood at the very top of American comedy. His influence stretches across generations, from the golden age of television to the silver screen classics that still make audiences laugh today. Brooks began his career in the writer's room of Sid Caesar's legendary show, Your Show of Shows. That program was a training ground for some of the greatest comedic minds in history. From there, Brooks moved on to direct and write films that would forever change the landscape of humor. Movies like The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein are not just comedies. They are cultural landmarks. But the journey to success did not begin in Hollywood. Mel Brooks was born Melvin Kaminsky in Brooklyn, New York. He grew up during the Great Depression, a time of immense hardship for many families. His childhood was marked by poverty and struggle. To cope with the difficulties of life, young Melvin turned to humor. Laughter became a shield against the pain of the world around him. Later, Brooks served in World War II, where he saw the horrors of combat. Again, comedy became his way of surviving. It was his weapon against despair. Throughout his career, Brooks built a universe of satire. He was fearless in his targets. He poked fun at Nazis, racists, and the very nature of show business itself. His comedy was loud, brash, and unapologetic. To the public, Mel Brooks was a generous and hilarious icon. He appeared on talk shows, told endless jokes, and seemed to love everyone he worked with. His public persona was that of a lovable prankster, a man who never took anything too seriously. But the reality behind the scenes was far more complicated. The journey to the top of Hollywood was not always paved with laughter. In fact, the path was often marked by conflict and creative tension. Brooks was a perfectionist. He had a vision for his films, and he expected everyone around him to share that vision. When actors or collaborators did not meet his standards, clashes were inevitable. The man who wrote the rules of comedy was often clashing with the very talent he employed. The truth, as it often does in Hollywood, lies not in the films, but in the fractured relationships that were left on the cutting room floor. Frank Langella is a titan of the stage and screen. He is known for his commanding presence and his ability to bring intense drama to any role. His career has been filled with powerful performances, from his portrayal of Dracula on Broadway to his work in films like Frost/Nixon. Langella is an actor who takes his craft very seriously. He demands respect for the art of acting. So, when Langella appeared in Mel Brooks' 1995 film Dracula, dead and loving it, the union proved to be a disaster from the very beginning. This was a classic case of two artists with completely opposite approaches to their work. Langella was a serious actor who believed in the weight of dramatic performance. Brooks was a comedian who believed in chaos, improvisation, and laughter. The pairing was toxic from the start. Langella clashed violently with Brooks' improvisational and chaotic comedy set. The actor was used to rehearse dialogue and careful direction. Brooks, on the other hand, encourages actors to go off script and find the humor in the moment. It was a style that Langella simply could not embrace. Rather than finding joy in the parody, Langella reportedly viewed the entire production with contempt. He saw the film as beneath him, a waste of his considerable talents. Sources close to the production described a set fraught with tension. The atmosphere was thick with disagreement. The serious actor struggled to fit into Brooks' world of slapstick and silly gags. It was a case of oil and water. The two men simply could not mix. Their creative visions were so far apart that compromise was impossible. The film itself was a critical failure. It did not resonate with audiences and was quickly forgotten. But the experience of making it left a permanent scar on their professional relationship. The animosity between Brooks and Langella was so deep that it cemented Langella's place on this infamous list. It was a feud born from a fundamental clash of artistic values. Yet, the friction on that set paled in comparison to the creative battles Brooks endured with someone he once considered a brother. No collaboration in comedy history is more beloved than that of Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder. Together, they created cinematic gold. Their partnership produced The Producers, a film that is still considered one of the funniest movies ever made. They followed that success with Blazing Saddles, a groundbreaking satire that pushed every boundary of good taste. And then came Young Frankenstein, a loving parody of classic horror films that Wilder himself co-wrote. These films are timeless. They are treasures of American cinema. However, their creative partnership was built on a fragile foundation of mutual respect that frequently erupted into conflict. The public saw two friends making each other laugh. The reality was far more complicated. Wilder was a sensitive artist. He was a gentle soul who often felt that Brooks' loud, abrasive persona overshadowed his own delicate genius. Brooks was the showman. He demanded attention. Wilder preferred a quieter, more thoughtful approach to comedy. The set of Young Frankenstein was where their differences became most profound. Wilder had a clear vision for the film. He wanted it to be a sincere tribute to the horror movies he loved as a child. Brooks, of course, wanted to inject his signature brand of anarchy and humor. The disagreements were so intense that Wilder only agreed to star on one condition. He demanded that Brooks did not act in the film. It was a shocking request, one that would have deeply hurt most directors. But Brooks agreed. He knew that Wilder was essential to the film's success. While they eventually reconciled, the deep wounds of their creative differences left a lasting rift. The love story the public adored was, in reality, a turbulent partnership where brilliance was forged in fire. They made each other better, but they also made each other miserable. The tension between them was real. It was painful, and it never completely healed. But if arguing with a friend is painful, being humiliated by a collaborator leaves a far deeper sting. The inclusion of Burt Reynolds on this list reveals a more personal side of Brooks' grievances. Burt Reynolds was the charismatic superstar of the 1970s. He was the king of the box office. He had charm, good looks, and a smile that could light up any screen. Reynolds made a cameo in Brooks' film High Anxiety. It was a small part, but Reynolds brought his signature swagger to the role. Initially, Reynolds called the experience one of the funniest days of his life. He seemed to enjoy working with Brooks. He laughed along with the rest of the cast. But the relationship soured over a single dinner. Brooks, with his signature brutal honesty, allegedly told Reynolds that a future film would rely on Anne Bancroft's talent to keep the audience in their seats. Anne Bancroft was Brooks' wife. She was also a brilliant actress. But the comment was a direct insult to Reynolds' acting ability. Reynolds was a proud star. He had been voted the world's biggest box office draw for 5 consecutive years. He was the most popular actor on the planet. To hear that his talent was not enough to carry a film was a profound blow. Reynolds took this as a deep and unforgivable insult. In his memoir, Reynolds wrote that Brooks could be cruel. He described the director as someone who could say things that cut to the bone. The friendship was never the same after that dinner. It was a wound inflicted by a peer. It questioned the very thing Reynolds valued most, his ability as an actor. While Reynolds' grudge was rooted in ego, one name on the list shocked the world because of his reputation as a comedic idol. Jerry Lewis was a comedy icon. He was a legend. He was a man who had made millions of people laugh across the globe. His face was known everywhere. He was a philanthropist who raised millions for charity. To the public, Jerry Lewis was a hero. But behind closed doors, he was a man Mel Brooks could not stand. Lewis, known for his manic energy and charity work, was notoriously difficult behind the scenes. His reputation for cruelty was well known in Hollywood. He had a temper. He could be demanding and controlling. Brooks, who has a deep contempt for cruelty, allegedly found Lewis to be one of the most unpleasant figures in entertainment history. The two titans of comedy clashed in a way that went beyond mere creative differences. This was personal. Brooks saw Lewis as a deeply insecure and demanding tyrant. He believed that Lewis used his power to humiliate others. For a man like Brooks, who survived the Depression and war by finding the humor in life, Lewis' brand of intense, controlling comedy was a source of genuine disdain. Brooks could not respect a man who used comedy as a weapon of cruelty. It was a revelation that shattered the public image of the beloved clown. The contrast between Lewis' public persona and his private behavior was shocking, and Brooks was one of the few people willing to speak the truth about it. The final name on the list, however, is perhaps the most baffling, proving that even the most gifted performers can be a director's nightmare. Perhaps the most surprising entry on Brooks' list is Harvey Korman. Korman was a legendary comedic actor. He was best known for his work with Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles and High Anxiety. To many, Korman was the perfect foil. He was a master of deadpan delivery. He could stand perfectly still and deliver a line that would make audiences howl with laughter. Korman seemed to embody everything Brooks loved in a performer. He was talented, funny, and reliable. Yet, Brooks' inclusion of Korman suggests a deep, unspoken disappointment. The details of this feud are the most obscured. There are no public arguments. There are no famous anecdotes. It is a mystery. This secrecy implies a personal betrayal or a professional failure that cut Brooks deeply. For a director who prided himself on creating a joyful set, Korman's alleged behavior must have been a significant breach of trust. Perhaps Korman let Brooks down in a way that the public never knew about. Perhaps their relationship was damaged by something that happened behind closed doors. Whatever it was enough to earn Korman a place on this infamous list. It proves that even those who seem to embody Brooks' comedic spirit can fall from grace in his eyes. The disappointment was real, and it was lasting. As Brooks reflects on a century of life and laughter, this list serves as a reminder that even the greatest careers are defined as much by their grudges as by their glory.